The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience. Talking some football. Once again, free agent roundup, fantasy implications, rankings. I'm not going to list them like 1 to 30, but, I'll give you a sense of where I got them. Adam Rank from NFL Network is going to be joining me just a little bit later on to get the full scope of the fantasy impact of a lot of these signings. But first, we need to really dig into some of the stuff that hadn't happened yet when I talked to Rank, and we saved a lot of this Jets talk for superfan number 1, actually number 2, behind Postman Fred. It is Tim Andergust.
Tim Andergust.
I mean, that's not my name. We're 3 seconds in, and the fake news is already flying. You know it's Fireman Ed. I don't know why you feel compelled to say this stuff. And that's a new board.
You got some new graphics.
I see that. I would ask for the descriptor at the bottom to be changed.
It won't be. It's only going to get worse. There might be like add-ons from here from Insane Person. Geoff Fienberg is in studio as well to help us make some sense of this. And I do want to let everyone know that if they want to get into a draw for $20 DK, 2 ways to do it. Smash the like button. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Let me know your favorite sneaky free agent signing in the NFL, or trade for that matter, that's going to lead to fantasy goodness next year. Odell Beckham doesn't count as a part of this. Not super sneaky with Odell Beckham Jr. The other way to do it is subscribe to the audio podcast, leave a 5-star review on the audio podcast. Don't tweet me that you think that the show is 5 stars. We actually need you to go to iTunes, Stitcher, or Spotify. Leave the 5-star review, something nice about the show, and your DraftKings handle. Winners announced on Monday's show with you, Mr. Fienberg, as we wrap everything up. Before we get into Tim and I guess his craziness over the Jets, he thinks they're going to go 16-0. At least that's my guess. What do you make of the Jets' free agent signings? Because to me, it seems like the Jets are that guy in your fantasy auction that didn't spend for any of the good players. So like when the third tier of players is around, they have all the money and they buy all these losers for like way too much.
We have pretty different opinions. I'm a pretty big believer in the Jets. I think Le'Veon Bell's nearly a perfect signing, and a very ideal signing for them, place for them to allocate their money at this moment in time. Do I wish they upgraded a target for Darnold? Yeah,
they
probably.
got Jamison Crowder.
But I'm a bit, listen.
Josh Bellamy.
I'm not on the hill that he's on alone, but I'm a huge believer in Sam Darnold. All of those quarterbacks, I'm a believer in.
All right, so Tim, the floor is yours. You love making lists. You love doing power rankings. Can you power rank your favorite Jet signings for us, please?
Sure. Number 1 was a trade for Osemele. I think that was a fantastic trade. Guy who, though he had gotten hurt in 2018, in 16 and 17, as a Pro Bowler, All-Pro one of those years, you need to build an offensive line that can protect your franchise under center. I thought that was fantastic. Second is Bell. You mentioned you need to provide a target. Well, the best pass-catching running back in football, its name is Le'Veon Bell. You go back and watch the highlights of that Jaguars playoff game, the last game he played. I mean, he's a receiver out there who can also run. I mean, he's the queen on the chessboard. The Jets are at least building the offense the right way by saying, okay, we've got a quarterback we're trying to develop. He's cheap. We need to put as much talent as we can acquire around him to allow him to flourish. So the Bell signing is second. Third is Mosley. They needed a linebacker desperately. He's not a pass rusher. He's a classic in-coverage guy who gets a ton of tackles. So I think Mosley would be third. Crowder fourth because, listen, you can never have too many decent to good receivers. When he's healthy, he's a quality number 2 receiver. And that's what he's going to be on the Jets 2-3 receiver. He's a good player. He's not elite by any means, but he's a darn good player. You pair him with Anderson and Enunwa and even Bellamy to an extent. That's a bomb squad at receiver.
A bomb squad. The Jets still might actually have like the worst receiving core in the league.
Well, he's got the Jets the third best offense in the AFC, right?
Or the best. Who knows?
I think maybe second after the Chiefs. He's the Jets.
We're not.
I mean, anytime you can go out and sign a linebacker that really would have had the premier skill set from 1992, you got to do that.
No, but he's a really good. Yes, I appreciate the inside linebacker is not a premium position, but you have to go to war with the army you have, not the army you want. Rumsfeld said, right? These are the best players available. The Jets had a need at every position except for safety and quarterback. So you have all this money that you either going to spend on someone who's a good player, even if not a premium position, or you're just not going to spend it. So, and particularly since that linebacker at Minnesota decided to go play with a loser instead, we had money to spend on a defensive player, and we ended up getting Mosley.
So you really, if people didn't see this, so Anthony Barr was going to sign with the Jets. He decided to back out because he didn't want to be too cursed. After you said, very good signing, I really like it. And then the next day when he didn't sign, he was like, we didn't want him anyway.
Before he goes, I must interject. It felt identical to their head coaching situation.
When he hated Adam Gase?
No, there was a guy that was the coach, and then he couldn't hire his assistants.
The guy from Tulsa? Or
oh, Baylor?
Yeah, Rule.
Yeah. And he did
Ja
this
Rule.
whole fake, and then it's I didn't like him anyway.
Because I wasn't super
And he
excited
pulled the
about
exact
the
same verbiage when talking about the Barr thing.
Yeah, I wasn't super excited because they were signing a guy to be a pass rusher who had never had a bunch of sacks in his career. It's I don't know about that. If we're going to spend money on an edge rusher, we don't have to. Now we have that third pick. We can go take the better Bosa or the good Josh Allen or somebody who can really pass rush at the 3 spot instead of having to trade back or trade up or not trade up.
What do you know about either of those players?
I know they're both excellent.
He read their name. He knows their name. That helps.
No, Ohio State's on all the time. I saw Bosa play.
He was great in that bowl game, right?
Well, no, he didn't play for half the season. I guess that's a Bosa family tradition, is just to miss lots of games.
No, didn't Bosa get kicked out? It was against Notre Dame. Didn't he get kicked out of the game?
Well, that was Joey Bosa.
No, you're throwing shade at both of them right now.
You said it's Bosa tradition to not play in the game. I'm saying Joe played. He got kicked out in the first quarter because they have that targeting ejection rule.
That there's that, or they don't sign a contract, or they decide for whatever reason not to play for 10 weeks with a pulled groin or something. That's just the way they are, I guess. I don't know.
So all these Jet signings make it seem like they're going to be incredibly mediocre this year. Better than last year, maybe, but if I had to set the win total over under 7, Jeff, what would you take?
What's their division record going to be?
I mean, how didn't you get John Brown? John Brown goes to the Bills. You could have used John Brown over Jamison Crowder.
I think Crowder's actually really good. You're undervalued.
I mean, Jamison Crowder's going to play 3 games before he pulls his hamstring, for one. And 2,
if he's healthy, he's going to be great.
If he's healthy, there's a lot of guys who, if they're healthy, they're going to be great. And even if he is healthy, he's not going to be great. He'll be okay. And then I even was following along with your Twitter, and you sent us a stat where Jamison Crowder is premier out of the slot. He's the 4th best in the league behind Quincy Enunwa.
You can play two guys.
You signed a guy who's a worse version of the guy you already have.
Well, believe it or not, you play 4 wide a lot in the NFL these days, and you can put 2 guys in the slot.
I don't hate just in today's modern league, you just need weapons.
How about getting
even
if
to
Beckham
have 2 guys that can
and
catch
Brown are both available on the trade market. You have all these assets and you have all this money.
Beckham's an unacquirable asset for them.
The
Giants aren't trading.
Why aren't the Giants trading?
The Jets could get creative and convince a third party to pull a deal and then make that deal. But come on, you have to know that just wouldn't.
Brown wasn't available for them?
I can't speak to that. He obviously
if he was available to the Bills, he was not available to the Jets.
I hate this, the anti-Buffalo narrative.
Well,
Buffalo, it's just as bad as
I like the
40% of these places.
I've been to Buffalo. I don't want to go back to Buffalo. Do you?
No, but particularly when Steeler fan was making fun of Antonio Brown for having to go to Buffalo.
I mean, I can see that.
I was
That's probably why you didn't want to go.
They're by no means the least likely team to get a big free agent. Mario Edwards went there. LaShawn McCoy re-upped there. The idea that you can't get T.O. went there. The idea that you can't get any free agent.
Literally, he was
He was dust.
No, at least say Mario Williams, and the only big name free agent to actually sign.
And they had to wildly overpay for Mario. That's the Buffalo tax that you have to pay. Unless they're trading for someone,
never winning.
You have to pay 20% over market value to get anyone.
They're never winning a tie. If 2 teams are in on a player with the same money in Buffalo, they seem to lose that tie every time.
I don't know. The distinction between Buffalo and Cleveland to me is a distinction without a difference. There's
not. Well, I mean, there's a big difference between the two because Cleveland is a pretty juicy spot to go right
I
now
don't
if
know,
you want to
both
pad
small market AFC teams where there's no attention or next to no attention. I mean, I don't know. I don't see a huge difference, actually. I think that's being exploited by people who are just very online and very into football. But the average fan, I actually don't think it makes a lick of difference.
There's
Average fan here, I'm excited for the Browns.
Yeah, there's
But
talk.
I'm also excited
you
for
guys are
Josh
not
Allen,
average
QB1.
there is talk that the opening Thursday night game is going to be Patriots-Browns.
No,
I think there's a 0% chance.
they said it's the 100th anniversary. Yeah, they've already announced that the Patriots probably won't be dropping their banner on the Thursday. It might be like Sunday or Monday
That's weird.
night, maybe, because it's the 100th year of the league, and it's
They don't wanna
Packers,
leave.
Bears.
Now Packers Bears. Let me throw that to the side. I want to see Cleveland in prime time as much as possible.
I said the line is 5, and that's probably a guaranteed push. Might need to say like 5.5 to actually
I
take
think
fair action.
Yeah, because if it's one the NFL loves to do, it's to put teams that haven't had a winning record in 12 years on 5 times from a tiny AFC market. Yeah, the league loves
I'm
doing
telling you, if it's like a lottery, I don't know how they decipher them, but the Browns are on the top of those networks' wish lists.
I think there will be 3, and they will all be early in the year because there's a better than not chance of this.
Can I bet you? Can I bet you on 3?
Well, no. Okay. Well, let's talk about this right now. What do you were saying that you went through the Jets' opponents? We don't know we don't know the schedule is yet. When the schedule comes out, we'll do the schedule show like we always do. But what do you got right now? Who are the opponents, and give me wins or losses against these teams right now, Tim?
Okay, well, we start with the division. I think we win both against Buffalo, both against Miami, and split with the Patriots.
Okay.
That's best case scenario.
So 5.
Yes, it is.
So 5-1 in the division.
Okay, now let's do NFC. Beat the Redskins, lose to the Eagles, lose to the Cowboys, beat the Giants. Rest of the AFC. At the Bengals, that's a loss.
What?
At the Raiders, that's a loss.
You are
I like the Bengals.
you are so trying. All right, okay. If that's the case, bet me right now that you think the Bengals will have a better record than the Browns.
I didn't say that. I just said
bet
I like
that game
that.
blind,
Yeah,
even
just
money.
bet-
At the Bengals. I
Bet
just
that
think
game.
that's
Is Hugh Jackson still employed there?
Did you know that Tim gave out 15-1 odds
I heard
that
about
the
this.
Browns will not finish first or second in the AFC North?
A
He
month
gave their
ago,
Super Bowl freaking
a month
odds.
ago before they made any moves. I made that a month ago before they made any moves.
I'm surprised it is disciplined to give them 2-2 in the in the cross conference.
Yeah,
to be
right.
honest,
Yeah.
Let's
Let's keep going here.
well, he's going to give them the Bengals as a loss, but he's going to call the Brown game free money.
Yeah.
No, it's free money, but we're going to win it.
Okay.
The game's in Gotham City. They're not going to be in Cleveland now to give away free bottles of Bud Light like losers to a fluke win on a Thursday night. That's not going to happen this time. So we're going to take the Jets
Oh,
there.
you're the best.
And then last 2, Raiders, Jaguars. I say we split those.
Wow.
Probably lose to the Jags, beat the Raiders.
What? I only have 15. I have what? 9 and 5 I have. I'm missing a game somewhere.
Well, let's see here. 1, 2,
5-1 in the division, and he's got.
So you have them
got
going
2
9 and 7 right now. Sorry, 9 and I'm missing 2 games here. I have 9 and 5 is what I have on my list.
Let me look at it. Okay, so 2 wins against Buffalo, that's 2. 2 wins against Miami, that's 4. 1 win against the Patriots, that's 5. Win against the Browns, 6. Win against the Steelers at home, 7. Loss at Baltimore, 8. Loss versus the Cowboys. Win versus the Giants, 9. Then we
So 10 and 6 is what you have it at.
we're going to beat the Redskins too. So I guess I have it 11 and 5.
11 and 5 for the Jets.
But 10 and 6 is probably the number I want it to be.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe-
want to be crazy here.
So what's it going to be in a month from now, do you think? Because this seems very tempered for you. It seems like you're intentionally laying back on the amount of wins that you actually think that you're going to get.
I'm shocked.
Can I just bet you Browns wins versus Jets wins right now?
No,
Why not?
I want to see the schedule. I want to see our draft.
You don't think the Browns are going to be any good, and at worst, you have the Jets as a
You
10-win
have the
team.
3rd overall pick, and the Browns have 0 draft capital.
I'm just
What
saying.
do you need to see? Their
I also
opponents
want to
are
see
out
the way
there.
the schedule. I also want to see the way the schedule lines up to see whether Park Avenue puts us up against a bunch of teams coming off bye weeks. How they set up our prime
Do you know
time
who's going to
game.
have a bad schedule? The Browns, because they're going to be in prime time so much.
Yeah,
They're
we'll
going to
see
be in
about
all these like off build-up games.
Maybe Jets-Browns will be a primetime game again this year. Maybe the Browns will win.
Sounds like a great Thursday nighter.
That could be a Monday night game.
I can't believe he says 3.
I do think 3 gives them room to flex.
3 is the minimum. 3 is 1 per slate
I just
network.
think, listen, you have to appreciate that in the end, they are a small market AFC team that, like, outside of the Patriots and the
They
Steelers,
are so
the Jets
buzzworthy, and the NFL is national.
Yeah, the NFL is not a regional
I
league.
get the Jaguars because they were boring.
If this was the NHL and it was on NBC, you have to put Chicago or Detroit or New York or Boston into those
or
games
even
to
Sunday
get
night baseball.
Americans to watch.
Even Sunday night baseball,
the NFL
they have
people are
to.
going to watch.
The Jaguars, his throwback in my face was like, how many did the Jaguars have off their AFC title? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This team is so buzzworthy. They've captivated every football fan.
No, I'm not.
The only
captivated.
people cheering against them are you and people in the North.
Yeah. I mean, one team has a very exciting quarterback, and the other team has someone who looks like he's fooled by magic eye posters.
Part of me is anticipating another shoe's got to drop because it's the Browns. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, I'm a Charger fan. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. But whether it's going to be amazing or it's going to be like a horrible marriage there, like I'm entertained by all of it. Either way, the good, the bad, the ugly is entertaining to me. I don't have a rooted interest in what happens, but I'm happy to see that a preeminent franchise, and he's probably rolling his eyes that I say that, but a preeminent franchise in football is finding its sea legs again and more. I like that.
Again?
Yeah, they're on the rise, man.
But again means they were ever on the rise to begin with. This team is synonymous with failure, futility.
I thought that was the Jets.
No, the Jets have been to the playoffs multiple times in the last 12 years. The Browns have been 0 times. The Browns have had 1 winning season in the last 12 years. Like the Browns are a joke. They're an absolute joke. You can put them right there with the Lions and the Redskins, teams that make mistakes at every turn, like the franchises. Do they have good players? Sure. Did the 2012 Eagles that were the dream team have good players? Yes. And what happened to them? They completely imploded. So,
yeah, they have a coach that's never done anything.
And I'm very surprised to see you and Pat eating up the hype when usually when these things happen, I'm the one who is imbibing all of the hype.
Well, it's because we believe that Baker Mayfield rules. And I mean, I'm not sold on, future Matt Stafford, a.k.a. Sam Darnold. Maybe Jay Cutler. That seems like a pretty logical outcome, right? Would you take Jay Cutler, Tim, for Sam Darnold?
He's so much better in
He's like the homeless man's Jay Cutler, is how I would describe Sam Darnold.
I am not going to let you.
And then you have Baker Mayfield, who's just legit. Look at the weapons he has versus Darnold. I mean, that's going to be your excuse. You call them the bomb squad right now with all these great weapons that Sam Darnold has. 4 weeks into the season, you're going to be like, if Sam actually had really good weapons, he'd be so great. But he's a fucking loser, just like this team.
For the Jets will all come down to how well Sam plays. If he takes the second year leap, as I hope and many think he will, then the Jets are going to be right there competing for the playoffs, for the division, and for the conference. If he doesn't, then they will flounder. It's that simple.
Why can't you just bet me Cleveland versus New York if you think they're going to go 11-6 and the Browns, they haven't made the playoffs in 13 years?
I mean, the Browns haven't made the playoffs.
So make me the bet then.
They actually haven't made it since 2002.
It sounds like free money for you.
Years. No, again, I am not going to be baited or coached.
Well, you're going to say these outrageous things, like the Jets are going to go 11-6 or 11-5, sorry, and the Browns are going to be terrible. Yet you won't take any sort of wager on it.
I don't think terrible, but I think what they did last year is a good benchmark for what I think they'll be again this year. They went 7-8-1 last year. They could be 8-7, 8-1. They could be 8-8. They could be 7-9. If everything broke perfectly for them, maybe they'd be 9-7. But they're in a really tough division in a way that the Jets have 2 tomato cans and a team that's falling apart. Is an aging team on the other side. So I think the Jets are in a better spot divisionally.
He does say some things that make sense.
The Bills might be better than the Jets.
Maybe that's true, but the Ravens and the Steelers could also be.
I just don't see the Ravens sticking.
No, okay.
One second. I need to hurry up here with the rest of the side. You got any final thoughts on the Jets?
Yeah, I take umbrage with me saying I'm buying the hype. I'm buying the hype that it's going to be exciting TV, like win or lose. I'm not one of those crazies betting them to win the Super Bowl. The Browns, I mean. I'm a big fan of the Jets offseason. And the Browns.
Thank you.
Seems very.
And the Browns.
It just reeks of a C+ offseason with these signings.
They did the best they could with the tools they had.
Oh, so we're grading on a curve then? They get an A+.
Well, no, this is the
They get an
best-
A+ because they're incompetent and they tried really hard?
Superstars outside of Bell, like they don't become available in free agency. What are you going to do? Like they did the best that they could with the hand they were dealt.
Get a GM who can make a trade, man.
The GM, well, some of the players like, Beckham was not a live option for them. And, Brown wanted to, wants to be in Oakland anyway. I think he's happier there. That's fine. I actually like what the Raiders have done too.
All right. So Tennessee, they sign Hump Daddy, Tim's boy, and then they trade for another white receiver in Ryan Tannehill. So I don't know what they're doing.
I kind of like their offseason. They also tried to improve both lines with Cam Wake and I want to say Roger Saffold. You could give or take. I'm excited. I don't mind the Tannehill deal.
What's Tannehill doing there? As backup to Mariota?
Yeah, because he doesn't play
He
7
misses
times.
a ton of games every year.
Are they going to use him at wide receiver, do you think? And if that was a possibility, why didn't the Jets get him too?
Should the Chargers have gotten Tannehill or Tyrod? I kind of would have rather Tannehill.
Much rather Tyrod.
Okay.
It should but see, it should be an open competition in Tennessee, and I'm not so sure that Tannehill
Well, that's
wouldn't
not
be.
fair either. But I like it. I love Hump Daddy. He's sort of everything that offense is. He got to make big plays in Tampa, show off because they had some really gamer receivers that they might be missing or they might have in Tennessee. It's sort of hard to tell. I wish they went for Antonio Brown because they need.
Who, Tampa?
No, Tennessee.
Yeah,
because
potentially. You have to hope that Corey Davis is real.
Yeah, but I like that. I really like the
I
Hump
agree with
Daddy
Jeff.
move. I think he's a
Hump Daddy's
perfect
fine,
fit
but
there.
does he do anything different than Delaney Walker does for you?
But they need that.
But he's coming back now. They didn't have it last year because Delaney got hurt week 1.
You could use as many pass catchers around the line of scrimmage as possible with Mariota.
Golden Tate to the Giants.
I don't hate that. I mean, I think he's better than he showed in Philadelphia. I think he's more like his Lions receiving self.
I just don't know what they're doing.
Circumstantially,
I don't know. I mean, their offense, when you think about it, is not that terrible.
They have Eli. It's terrible.
Well, Eli is a problem, but you've got Barkley, you have Ingram, you have Shepard, you have Tate. That's not terrible. Compared to what Washington's rolling out there in the division.
Okay. Put it this way: compared to the Jets, it's really good. But
Right.
other than anyone else, I don't know.
I actually don't. I understood the Tate decision. I think they got too little back for Beckham, but I actually don't think it was as bad as people think, but I do think it was not great. And I think the Tate signing is fine. I mean, you have the money. He's a good player. He's still young. He's a lovely player.
But are you blowing it up or are you not blowing it up? What's the move here?
You can chew gum and walk at the same time. You can sign a good player.
But if you're gonna sign Tate and use this potential cap space that you're going to have once Eli's gone, get rid of Eli. Draft the quarterback and start him week 1 so they can at least have a rapport.
That's not going to happen.
I don't like the move because I don't see any purpose in trying to win 5 games when you can win 2 or 3.
Yeah, I just don't get
that's
it.
the sort of move. I'm not even saying Golden Tate's worth 2 wins based on any metric.
But if you're gonna be bad, be bad.
Yeah, just draft a 4th rounder and try to develop him with that skill set. I don't know. I don't really. Yeah, I'm trying to win 5 to 8 games in the NFL to me is just death.
Should be good for fantasy though.
Yeah,
I would think so.
Yeah, great. And Eli,
for
that's his
Ingram.
best throw, the 1.5 yard pass.
Well, Ingram plays so much he's not really a tight end. He's basically a giant slot receiver as it is. That now you have Golden Tate brought in. It's going to be difficult to figure out where everything goes through them. I just assume they run it with Barkley 45 times a game. And then by the time they actually get a good quarterback in there, Barkley's going to be washed up because he has too many carries. Anyway, Jason Verret went somewhere. I forget where. Maybe
the 49ers. This is a nice move. I'll say
for
this,
3.6
because the
million.
Chargers have done nothing, I would have hoped we would retain him.
For no money, too. It was
We sort of put all this
million.
time and effort, but they like a couple guys, Trevor Williams, Jalen Watkins. They seem to like guys, but I'd have paid that because I was really unimpressed. The Chargers never really do big free agents, but I think they're the only team in the league for 3 straight years to have a free agent go to the Pro Bowl. And I'm not saying the Pro Bowl is the be-all, end-all, but Hayward, Okun, and last year Pouncey. So maybe they can find something. They said Thomas Davis from Carolina.
Ugh.
Like, I don't, like, no disrespect to him in his career, but this is like when we had like Takeo Spikes for his
Well, that's
life.
it. Yeah, he's like 38 years
And
old.
then no disrespect, but we're really weak in the middle. But we need someone that can maybe handle coverage. I don't know. Offseason's not over, but we've signed Thomas Davis and Tyrod Taylor, so I'm
Looking good. Looking good. Just got to run
Well,
it
the
back.
stat
You
people
got to
love-
run it. You got to run it back and hope that the breaks go your way this year.
Well, all the stat people last year loved Tyrod Taylor until they decided to forget they liked him and to pretend they always liked Mayfield better, and then forgot how much they loved Tyrod.
Tyrod, people still like Tyrod. Tyrod's an excellent
No,
backup.
they liked Tyrod a lot, and then they saw Mayfield, and they said, we never thought Tyrod should have been starting, when every single one of them said Tyrod should be starting.
I mean, I think that's a huge generalization by what you're saying, but I mean, it's you, so that makes a lot of sense by not getting all the facts and just making bold proclamations that you're never forced to back up.
I remember what I saw.
Yeah, you remember because you live your truth. We all know this. Coming up next, actual fantasy breakdown with Adam Rank from the NFL Network. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Pat Mayo Experience. Let's actually run through some of the fantasy fallout of the free agent signings. It's hard to determine too much because the draft still has to happen. There are still players to be signed, cuts to be made. So I'm going to bring in Adam Rank from NFL Network. He's pretty good at this stuff. You see him on the TVs. So, I mean, that's more credibility than I have after I got kicked off TV and forced to the internet. Rank, the best single signing from a fantasy perspective so far.
A single signing, not a trade or anything like that.
Trade, well, sure.
Really
Trade works too.
Oh my gosh, does trade work as well?
It can be Beckham if you want it to be.
It could be, but I think everybody knows that. Like, I'm not going to come in here and tell you, like, oh my God, Odell Beckham Jr. is good. Like, it seems that everybody outside of Dave Gettleman realized how great this guy was. And really, when you look at the film and start breaking down how great Odell Beckham Jr. is at separation, and he's really, and Matt Harmon did a nice job of breaking this down on his reception perception. Nobody outside of perhaps maybe Antonio Brown is good at getting away from his defender like Odell Beckham Jr. And there's a possibility that we haven't seen the best out of OBJ yet. And now he's going to be playing with Baker Mayfield. And he came out and had a pretty nice rookie season. Baker Mayfield is somebody who's not afraid to go down the field. As a matter of fact, he ranked 6th in the NFL in yardage on passes of over 20 yards. And of course, he was behind guys like Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger, and of course, Russell Westbrook. It's basketball season, so forgive me. But
yeah, Russell Westbrook too. I'm sure he can bomb it.
He's in there. Yeah, he throws some nice passes. So behind Russell Wilson, of course. So there's going to be an opportunity for him to go out there and even build on the numbers that he's put on over the last couple of years. And a matter of fact, only Antonio Brown has averaged more fantasy points per game in PPR leagues than Odell Beckham Jr. So going to the Browns, I think that's the easiest one. And really it comes down to a bigger question of like, who is going to be the top guy selected from the wide receiver position. I know that there's a lot of people, for whatever reason, and I'm a Bears fan, so take this for what it's worth, that are going to want to say Davante Adams. And you know what? If you want to draft Davante Adams over Odell Beckham Jr., you are freaking crazy. Go do it. Please do it. Play in leagues with me, because I will happily sit there and draft Odell Beckham Jr. and laugh. Go enjoy Matt LaFleur's offense, because it looked great in Tennessee last year. But the one guy, one of the things that I thought that kind of not really flew under the radar, but might not be given enough deference and respect that it deserves, I really like the Mark Ingram move for the Baltimore.
Oh, how
Ravens.
dare you? You cannot come on this show and like Mark Ingram. That is no, he sucks.
Why not?
Sucks.
Stop it.
Do you know who the best defender is at tackling Mark Ingram? The 2-yard
Mark
line.
Ingram.
He just likes to trip over his own feet, run into the back. He snubbed me at NFL Radio Row during the Super Bowl 2 years ago. No, thank you, Mark Ingram.
Good. He should have.
Get launched. Enjoy wasting away when you're splitting carries with 5 other guys in Baltimore.
See, but that's the thing. It's like, he's not going to be splitting time with those guys.
Oh,
They're going to figure out their committee situation. Now, if you want to sit there and be concerned that Lamar Jackson might start pulling the Cam Newton and dialing his own number when he gets near the goal line, I will listen to that argument. But I think for where you're going to be drafting Mark Ingram, obviously he's not going to be a first or second rounder. I'm interested to see where his ADP is going to start to land, but few teams ran as much as the Baltimore Ravens once Lamar Jackson took over as the quarterback of that team. So I look at a team that's going to be run-based. He's going to get his opportunities, and we can sit here, and I'm sorry that he besmirched you in Minneapolis and didn't want to come hang out with us at the Great Lakes Brewery with our friend Justin. But listen, sometimes those things happen, and I think in this situation, in that division, Mark Ingram is going to end up being pretty good. I like his situation better than, say, Tevin Coleman, that even though he has that history with Kyle Shanahan, we don't know what's going to happen with that 49ers backfield. So I'm a big Mark Ingram guy, and I'm sorry that you're not, and I'm sorry that he hurt you so.
Well, here are two things. I think that Coleman might end up outscoring Mark Ingram this year because the Niners aren't on the hook for any money to Jerick McKinnon. They might just cut him, which would all of a sudden make, I guess Matt Breida is still there, but if you're going to bring in Coleman, who has such familiarity with this offense, who can both catch and run out of the backfield, which would be pretty nice, so we can get Kyle Jers
Use check
out of our lives for once and for all. I guess he'll always be on the field. But with Ingram,
Yes.
Lamar Jackson doesn't throw to the running backs whatsoever. If they do, they're probably still going to. Baltimore wants to make, almost like how they're trying to still make fetch happen. They're still trying to make Kenneth Dixon happen out of the backfield time after time. And he's still going to be like their receiving back. And so much of Ingram's value was tied up in the amount of passes that he was just getting per game from Drew Brees, because that was such a big part of their offense. Even when he was splitting time with Chimera, it's not like Ingram was just completely X'd out of the receiving game, which he should have been, because Chimera is such a better receiving back. And they're like, oh, we'll just throw to Mark Ingram. No one will see that coming. But that's just not going to be a part of his game in Baltimore. And so much of his value was derived from that, even if you're thinking about, especially like PPR formats, that you need Ingram to score like double-digit touchdowns to be any good in Baltimore.
All right, you almost had me convinced, but I'm still going to put some time into this. And again, it's still early, and it'll be interesting to see who ends up making the roster. And I know that Kenneth Dixon is always going to be somebody who's going to be lurking. But the one thing, though, and this is something that happened, this is why Jordan Howard's value went down, is that you can't be predictable. And you want to make sure that you get into situations that when Mark Ingram is on the field, that it's not completely predictable that they're going to be running the football. So I think that they're going to have to use him as a receiver a little bit more. And I understand, Lamar Miller wasn't spreading the ball around to his running backs last year, but he was a rookie quarterback who was kind of thrown into a situation where he wasn't expected to start last year. And I think that with a full offseason under his belt and a little bit more acclimation to the offense, he's going to feel more comfortable and start looking for his check down guys, because I don't believe that he's going to run as much as he did last year, which means more passes out of the backfield, which I think that will continue to help Mark Ingram's value. So I'm a little bit more confident about him than you are. And honestly, I think he could get close to double-digit touchdowns. So I think that there is an opportunity for him. I just like that the run-heavy offense with the guy that is expected to be the bell cow of that backfield. So obviously, I'm a little bit more enthused about it than you.
So I haven't done rankings yet. You haven't done any sort of positional rankings for the upcoming season.
There's too much.
Yeah.
You talked about it. There's too much still to be settled.
Yeah, I mean, I know that when I post like fantasy football rankings in the title of this, it's going to get a bunch of hits because that's great SEO. But I mean, we can talk broadly about rankings. So Ingram probably has less value than he did with New Orleans as the back end of a split, or like around the same, would you say?
I think that it's going to be about the same, because you're not seeing as many carries to Alvin Kamara and probably getting a little bit more run as a featured back. But again, the offense isn't as dynamic. So I think the two things kind of weigh them. It's different. Like it ends up being the same, but you're taking different routes to get there. Instead of taking the expressway, we took some side streets, but we're still getting to the same destination. And I think that Mark Ingram, his production will continue to be the same that what we've seen out in New Orleans. It just might not look the same.
Well, the one thing I would worry about drafting him is that if you think he's the bell cow, then yeah, he could actually return quite a bit of value. But if they get into a situation where they're running out 3 running backs, like the Gus Bus, he ends up coming back and stealing 8 carries a game. And Dixon's playing like 35% of the snaps. If he finds himself in that scenario again, I just worry about the upside of this offense and whether he can overcome that in terms of, let's say he ends up with 17 touches a game. Most of those are going to be carries. And if they're not high leverage carries, then he's a bit of a dud. And he's back to worst place Mark Ingram.
Yeah, it's a risk. That's hence the markdown. That's why we're not drafting him in the first round and why we're taking him a little bit later in drafts. It's like when you go to a garage sale and you're selling a toaster without a cord and somebody's like, "Hey, like I'll give you like why I'll give you a quarter for this instead of $1." You're like, "Well, it's marked down because there's something wrong there. It's a discount. We're getting a number one running back at a discounted price because of all those variables." And again, yeah, you're going to be rolling the dice a little bit when you're drafting Mark Ingram, but I think I have a little bit of enough confidence. And I think that Gus Edwards, I don't know. I'm not as enthused on those guys as much, and I'll stop using the word enthused. I try not to repeat those words as much as I can, but I do believe that Ingram is being brought in for a reason, and he's going to be the guy that they lean on. And I think that John Harbaugh and that offense, he's going to be the guy that they look at.
All right, so if we go to New Orleans, Chimera looks like he has a path opened up to a bigger share of the overall touches and playing time, but Latavius Murray has been brought in as well, who frankly might be better than Mark Ingram. So I don't know how that's going to really work out. Do you see any change for Chimera, or is he just going to do what he does?
The disrespect for Mark Ingram. Now you are going to be comparing him to Latavius. Like, I feel like I have that visceral reaction like you do for Mark Ingram when I hear Latavius Murray. And listen, I'm sure he's a nice individual person, but I hate his running style. I hate that he looks like a door. It's like, he's just a door. He's just a straight up runner, and it just bothers me. It's like, oh, you should be using your body better. So I feel like he's just being brought in as a compliment. And I remember last year I was talking about Alvin Kamara being the top running back in fantasy, and everybody was talking about regression and blah, blah, blah. There's no way that he can keep up this pace. It's like, yeah, he can keep up this pace because he's very good at football. Like, when you watch him play, he's very elusive. He makes things happen. It seems like nobody gets a good shot on him. And I think that they found like a perfect mix for Alvin Kamara, and that they don't necessarily have to give him that many more carries for him to be the elite running back that we expect him to be. I feel like they've got a good handle on what he's able to do. And Chimera, I'm going to be debating about that. I might go back to him being my number one guy going into this season. I might think a little bit about Saquon Barkley, and obviously Ezekiel Elliott. So it'll be interesting as the summer starts to play out where we start to slot those guys. But I'm very encouraged by what the Saints are going to be doing with Alvin Kamara, who I think might be the best running back in the game.
So if you have Chimera, who's a top 5 guy, you got Barkley, who's a top 5 guy. What do we do with Bell? Bell with New York, we assume he gets 99% of the share like he was getting in Pittsburgh. Maybe that won't end up being the case, but is he a top 5 running back?
It's interesting. I go back and forth on this. There's some part of me that believes that perhaps he can be that kind of piece to the offense, similar to what Todd Gurley was able to do with the Rams and how he helped Jared Goff's development over the last couple of years. And of course, that's what Lev would be doing with Sam Darnold. And anytime you get a player like Le'Veon Bell and you're worried about the offense, or we're worried, is this offense dynamic enough? The one thing that I always go back to is, can he catch the ball out of the backfield? There are very few running backs who can match his skills as a receiver. And I think that with the way that he plays and his style of play, that you could pretty much put him on any offense and he is going to be a dynamic playmaker. And I think this Jets offense does have some potential. I'm a huge fan of Sam Darnold. I really hope that he's able to take that step in season 2. We've seen it from some other guys, obviously Mitch Trubisky last year, obviously Jared Goff a couple of years ago. Sam Darnold could definitely be that guy. And as much as we want to knock Adam Gase and we want to make fun of his eyes from the press conference, and he just looked like whatever was happening there was happening. I don't know what it was, but I still believe that Adam Gase is a good NFL coach. And I think that being saddled with Ryan Tannehill over the last couple of years might not have been the greatest barometer of what he's going to be able to accomplish here in the NFL. So I'm slowly working myself into believing that Le'Veon Bell is going to be a top 5 back. I'm down though for a huge bounce back for David Johnson. I still like Christian McCaffrey. So now you're starting to get, so maybe Le'Veon Bell does fall out of the top 5. I will tell you though, I would probably rather have Le'Veon Bell than Todd Gurley, which I know is crazy to a lot of people, but that's where I'm standing at right now.
Well, when you got the arthritis in your knee, then it's a bit of a problem drafting a guy like 1st or 2nd overall like Todd Gurley. Especially,
but people don't. But people don't seem to be upset about it. Like they act like
hold on. What if he starts starring in commercials like Phil Mickelson for arthritis medicine?
Yeah, that's his next thing. He's gonna have that. What is his KMPG or whatever the company is that Phil's representing. Once he starts getting into those type of commercial roles, I'm gonna start getting a little bit worried about Todd Gurley. Like it's a scary situation. Like it's when you're asking us to put a first or second overall pick on a running back who might or might not be the guy that we saw over the last couple of years that we didn't even see over the last couple of weeks of the season. A guy who didn't play in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is a big game, and that he couldn't play. Like, what is going to happen in week 4 against the 49ers? Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't understand why people are acting like this isn't a bigger deal.
Yeah, you're going to see Todd Gurley in an Enbrel commercial where he's just gingerly standing up at the beginning, and then he's going to pop one of those pills. He's going to be like, yeah, cheering on his kids at like a T-ball game or something like that. So you're going to have, I think it's a really interesting situation. So like Barkley, McCaffrey, Chimera, Zeke are probably locked into the top 4. You can put Bell into that mix, but is there a chance, do you think, that James Conner just outscores Le'Veon Bell?
I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I do like the Steelers offensive line. I do think, a lot of, even though the Steelers are getting dragged through the mud here during the offseason, like the optics of losing Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell are not great. But, if you've looked over the Steelers' history over the last 20 years, is that they typically don't have a sentimentality to keeping their stars around for too long. Like we think of Santonio Holmes, who won a Super Bowl for the team, Plaxico Burress, Mike Wallace, and geez, even Rod Woodson, if you want to go to the defensive side of the ball. James Harrison played for the season for the Bengals. So the Steelers usually do a pretty good job of cutting these guys a year too early. This was the first time that I can remember where they got caught up holding on to a guy too long. But that all being said, is that the one hallmark of this team is that they always move on. It is always the next man up. And we did see it last year with James Conner, where he was able to do it. And this year we expect not only JuJu Smith-Schuster to continue to do what he's done over the first couple of years of his career, but you have James Washington. They added Donte Moncrief. That offense is going to be just fine. I think that James Conner is going to be a good fantasy back. He should be a top 10 guy. I just don't think that he's the caliber of player that Le'Veon Bell is. So I would take Bell over Conner.
So is Conner in that mix with Joe Mixon when it comes to drafting? And Dave, where does David Johnson fit into that? Is David Johnson more a part of that tier? Is he a part of that upper tier, or he and Bell sort of like on an island by themselves? And are all those guys still ahead of Gurley, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely put David Johnson ahead of them. And one of the reasons why is we went back and looked at Cliff Kingsbury and his time at Texas Tech and how much he threw to the running back out of the backfield. And there was just a handful of teams who threw the ball to running backs on first and second down more than Cliff Kingsbury and the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. And, of course, the teams that were doing it were the disciples of what's the coach? The Washington State coach.
Oh, Mike Leake. Not
Mike Leake, yeah.
No.
Leach. Mike Leach, yes.
Mike Leake is like a terrible Cincinnati Reds pitcher from like 10 years ago, I think.
Yes, exactly. So he's the ringleader. Like nobody threw to the running back more than him. And of course, Dana Holgorsen and all those guys, all the disciples of him. So Cliff Kingsbury was there amongst them. And I think that the one way that you combat having a poor offensive line is that you throw the ball to the back, out of the backfield, especially on first and second down before the plays get predictable. And I believe that that's going to give David Johnson the opportunity to go once again, be a top 5 fantasy running back. I would put him ahead of Todd Gurley for sure. Again, I don't get why people are not more concerned about this injury. But yeah, so those guys are a little bit of a step ahead. I think that the RB1 for the Bengals is obviously somebody who he catches the ball really well. I kind of avoid him in drafts just for whatever reasons. But who was the guy we were talking about? I forget you're talking about Conner.
Yeah, so but even beyond Conner, Carlos Hyde signs with Kansas City. Does that mean Damian Williams isn't the first round lock everyone wants him to be? How do those guys fit in? Is Williams still the better pick over Hyde? Because I would think that he is, but it seems like let's say you draft Damian Williams in the second round or early third round, you have to get Hyde at that point, don't you?
At some point, but I think that when you look at the history of Andy Reid. He's always had a good quality guy kind of backing up the main dude, whether it's Charkandrick West or Spencer Ware or somebody like that, but they don't really get the burn that the number one guy does. And anytime you get somebody, like be it Jamal Charles or whoever it is, those guys end up getting the most opportunities. So if you're confident enough in Damian Williams, I think that he's going to end up getting most of the carries. That even though Carlos Hyde is there, I don't believe that he's going to be a huge factor, because the number two back for the Chiefs never really has asserted himself that way.
So wide receivers, let's briefly talk about this. Antonio Brown goes to Oakland. Who has a better fantasy year? And I guess Tyrell the Gazelle Williams will be joining him in Oakland too. So they really upgraded at the wide receiver position. But if you're drafting right now, who do you take first? Antonio Brown or JuJu?
Ooh, man. I really do believe that JuJu, I'll probably still end up going with Antonio Brown. And again, this goes back to something we talked about a moment ago, is his ability to separate. You go out and you watch the all 22 films, Antonio Brown is open on every play. Like, he's always open. It's going to be a matter of Derek Carr getting him the ball. But what I think that we saw at the end of last season was that John Gruden kind of finally realized, like, oh, Derek Carr can actually throw the football. So perhaps we'll give him more opportunity. And that's why towards the end of the season, Derek Carr started playing a lot better. And we'll start seeing more of a dynamic offense. And I believe that he's going to be the guy who continues to get peppered with targets. Where last year, Antonio Brown was kind of fighting with JuJu, and they were kind of spreading the ball around, and it was more equal than it was. This is going to be a chance for Antonio Brown to go out there and be the target hog that we want him to be. I remember, when they were trying to make Amari Cooper into a thing with the Raiders, there was a game against Tennessee where they had the ball first and goal, on the 1 yard line, and Derek Carr threw 3 passes to Amari Cooper, who couldn't catch a single one of them. I think you try that with Antonio Brown, he's going to end up catching it. So they're going to make a concerted effort to get him the football. So I feel pretty confident in Antonio Brown going forward.
Yeah, I think right now, if I was drafting, which I'm not, because if you're doing fantasy football drafts in March, you got like serious issues because you could be watching.
You're a lunatic.
You could be like,
play fantasy golf. It's fun.
There you go. I mean, I'm not playing fantasy baseball this year. I decided, nope, not for me anymore. Don't want to have to pay attention to that. So yeah, fantasy golf, something nice and easy. You watch the challenge fantasy, something like that. I think I would take JuJu right now, though. I have more faith even in a decrepit Ben Roethlisberger than I do in Derek Carr. And what if we go to the outside? What if we go Tyrell Williams versus Donte Moncrief? Moncrief seems like he's in a good spot here.
Oh, I love it. I like the secondary.
Unless it's like James Washington, who ends up emerging maybe out of the slot. Maybe people will be super high on Vance McDonald this year, so maybe those targets get distributed. But I mean, my main man, Marcel Aitman, is still with the Oakland Raiders, so maybe he competes with Tyrell Williams a little bit.
Maybe Seth Roberts establishes himself. Maybe the team resigns Jared Cook. You never know. Again, there's a lot of things that need to happen over the course. Like, we have to see the way this breaks down. But I'm still brand name guy. I'm still going to be the guy who's like, I could try this new thing, but I think I'm going to stick with Old Faithful. And I think that you and I had always been on Antonio Brown for a long time and have been huge fans. And so it's always harder for me to kind of get away from those guys. Plus, Antonio Brown was still extremely productive last year. And that is one of the things that really matters to me. It's not like he had a little bit of a down year or anything like that. He was still out there balling. He looks like he's going to go out there and continue to work hard. He's got something to prove. And not that he's never had anything to prove, but I don't think that he's going to be somebody who relaxes on his laurels because he's got this new contract or whatnot. I do believe that he's going to go out there and show out. And so, listen, perhaps I'm blinded by loyalty and the good years. And I usually pride myself on being the person who's able to turn the page and move on to who is going to be the next big thing. But I'm still going to go with AB.
So Beckham in Cleveland. Do you think that there's a chance with so many different options there? You have Beckham, you have Landry, you have Njoku, my main man Rashad Higgins. He's still kicking around. You have Duke Johnson out of the backfield catching passes. That there's a chance that maybe his market share of targets isn't like 35%. And does that even matter? And is he a better fantasy option, do you think, than Brown and JuJu? Or is he a part of that tier?
Oh, no, I believe that Odell Beckham Jr. is probably going to be my number one.
Now, Hopkins is the number one guy. Come on.
That's the thing. Well, excuse me. He's competing for number one. DeAndre Hopkins, you're absolutely right. That was my number. Don't check my Instagram. I got that graphic up. DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sorry. I meant he is my number one of those three. But I understand what you're saying. Like there's a lot. There seems like there's a lot of guys that are going to be competing for targets, and I think that Jarvis Landry might be the guy who falls off, who doesn't get the production that he's seen over the last number of years. The one thing though is that you're upgrading. Like it's a huge upgrade to me. Going from broke ass Eli Manning, a guy who probably should have retired a year ago, maybe two. Now you're going to Baker Mayfield, a guy who's on the ascension, a guy who, like I said, was one of the top guys in air yards and things like that. And all the metrics are working out to his favor. He's coming into his second season. We talk about quarterbacks taking that next step in the second season. Baker Mayfield's going to do that. And I believe that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be the biggest benefactor. And outside of DeAndre Hopkins, let me make sure that's perfectly clear, there is no other receiver I would want other than Odell Beckham Jr.
So what does that do with the void in New York now? Just avoid or just draft Evan Ingram?
I mean, Evan Ingram's going to be the guy who probably gets peppered with the targets the most. You saw over the last 4 weeks of the season when Odell was out, Sterling Shepard wasn't the guy that we thought he would be as the replacement or the guy who steps up. It was Evan Ingram. And of course, Saquon Barkley is going to get a lot of receptions out of the backfield as well. So I believe that they're just going to disperse it that way. And so that, and again, for anybody who's concerned about Saquon Barkley and wants to avoid him this year, it's like he catches the football. Like, let me let you in on a little bit of a secret. He can catch the ball, and he probably will there. So I think that it gets kind of tossed out. And, again, we're still months or a month or whatever. We're a couple of weeks away from the draft. So they could end up with somebody like N'Keal Harry or somebody else. They could take Ridley. So you never know. There's probably going to be somebody else who gets added to the mix for the Giants that'll give us a clearer picture as we get closer to fantasy draft season. But right now, I do think that Evan Ingram's the best guy to look at.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about Evan Ingram and like the pantheon of tight ends coming into the year. And it does depend on what they do and how they fill out the rest of their roster. But like if it came down to drafting Gronk or Evan Ingram, like I don't even think that's close.
Oh
I think you have to take Evan Ingram.
Oh, 100%. I think that the best comparison would probably be to what happened with George Kittle last year, where the 49ers really didn't have that established superstar as a receiver. And so George Kittle emerged as the best pass catcher. And I guess that's probably the best way to start looking at these guys. Like, who is the best pass catcher? And for the 49ers last year was George Kittle. For the Giants, it's going to be Evan Ingram, followed by Saquon Barkley, followed by Sterling Shepard. So he's somebody that when you're drafting your tight ends, obviously Kelsey's going to be up there, Kittle. Evan Ingram to me starts knocking on the door of the top 5 if he's not. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
You're forgetting Ertz. So Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle. Ingram might be next because you're dealing with like O.J. Howard as potentially the next guy, Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle, like guys in split situations who are only either reception dependent or touchdown dependent. With Ingram, you might get both. Like Njoku would have been up there, but I really do think this Beckham market share thing really does take away a lot from where his ceiling could be.
Oh, 100%. Like I would have been all over Njoku, but yes, he's going to take a definite backseat. That when you talked about this a moment ago with guys who get hurt by the large number of available receivers for the Browns, it's Njoku who hurts. Not that he's not a good player or anything like that, but I think fantasy-wise, he's going to take a little bit of a step back.
So Jamison Crowder and your main man from the Chicago Bears, Josh Smellamy, end up signing with the Jets. These are like non-factors, right? Like, why sign Crowder to play the slot when you have a guy in Quincy Enunwa, little Quincy, who's better at playing the slot than Jamison Crowder is?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a questionable move. I don't know if they were just. They
have so much money. When you got so much money, we might as well sign everybody. It's like that guy at the beginning of a fantasy auction. Be like, oh, I'll draft everybody.
I'm in. Yeah, every player that's nominated, I'm in on them. And it seems like that's what the Jets were doing. Like, we need a receiver, so let's sign all of them. Like, why not make a trade for somebody? There was a couple of big name. I mean, not that the Giants would have traded OBJ to the Jets, but there were some big names available that you probably could have gone after. And you probably might still be able to go after. So those were kind of questionable. But I think Josh Bellamy is kind of a sneaky good receiver. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make. But I do think that he has the potential, because I was kind of bummed when he was gone.
Yeah, Josh Bellamy is like a good special teamer, which is weird because the Jets had a really good special teams unit last year that I don't know how much of an upgrade that he's really going to be. Or maybe they just think like, we got the secret key here. We got the key. We're going to turn it open. Super Bowl with Josh Bellamy on our team. I don't know about that. But
He's the key. You never know.
Potentially. Foles to Jacksonville. No Donte Moncrief. Is it finally time for Dede to be unleashed here? Because Foles loves throwing the slot.
Yeah, Dede Westbrook time. Let's get it going. He's got an offensive coordinator that's familiar with his skill set, and so they're going to turn it loose. You know, this is a pretty nice opportunity for them. I questioned if the Jags were doing the right thing. I think that obviously it was probably time to move on from Blake Bortles, even though how much that hurts my heart, and Blake's superior and everything like that. But whatever, it's fine. I thought that perhaps if the Cardinals are going to go after Kyler Murray, that you take a look at trying to acquire Josh Rosen as your potential replacement for him, because obviously he's a cost-controlled guy and everything like that. But you spent the money on Nick Foles, which at least gives him the credibility in the locker room, which leads me to believe that they're going to let him go out there and dial it up a little bit more, especially a lot more than what they were doing with Blake Bortles, which reportedly they had to dumb down the offense and kind of take away a bunch of concepts. I think it comes down to if the coaching staff, if Doug Marrone's going to let D. Phillip go out there and do the kind of things that he's good at. Now, obviously, last year, having D. Phillip up in Minnesota with the Zimmer didn't work out, because Zimmer's an old school guy who's like, why are we throwing the football when we can run it 80 times? Like, he's that kind of player. And I know Marrone kind of has that mentality as well. So I hope, though, that based on what happened last year, you realize you do have to throw the football a little bit to kind of open up the run, which goes against the common wisdom from the 70s. But you got to throw the ball, and I think that Nick Foles is going to go out there and do it. And I think that Dede Westbrook is the guy who I'm in. I've been waiting for it for years, so why not get excited for it all over again?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see who the other guy who emerges in that offense in the receiving game is going to be, whether it's DJ Chark, whether it's Keelan Cole. Maybe they start throwing to their running backs more. Maybe they draft a tight end for once, and they're not just running like decrepit bodies out there at the big man position. So, Ben Koyak's fine, but we can probably find someone a little bit better than that. Koyak.com. Get some cheap flights while you're out there. Flacco, Keenum, Flacco to Denver, Keenum to Washington. Do we care anything about either of these two? Do they impact the offense whatsoever?
Not at all. Like this, I don't understand. I don't know. It seems like with the Denver Broncos, the NFL, everybody's playing on Xbox One, and John Elway went to a garage sale and picked up a Nintendo. And I'm talking the old school NES from the 90s, not the Switch, you nerds. So don't hit me up. Oh, the Switches. I get it. The Switches. I'm talking the old school gray box. That's the kind of system that he doesn't know if it works. He doesn't know that when you plug it in, if it's going to even fire up. But whatever, we're going to go out there and give it a chance. And so it just is a baffling move. And I know that John Elway came out in his introductory press conference, was like, hey, you know what, this guy, the only stat that matters for me is wins. And he knows how to win. And I'm like, oh my God, you got so lucky with Peyton Manning that he chose to go play for you. He could have gone to Arizona and you would not have a Super Bowl. You were going to give Brock Osweiler all the money in the world. And so now you think that Joe Flacco is going to be the guy who saves the day. I don't know. As great as he was, and he was great for the Denver Broncos, he might have been the best. There's people out there who think he was the best quarterback of all time, given the situation that he was put in. But at some point, you gotta help him. Somebody's got to take the reins from him and be like, listen, you are a great quarterback. You are not a great judge of quarterbacks. You're not great at running a team. Perhaps you should go back out to your car dealerships and do that, because you're very good at that stuff. But running teams, it seems like a little bit of a disconnect.
Now I just envision John Elway just walking onto the practice field or walking down to the sidelines after Joe Flacco throws a pick and like blowing in his face to get him to work. Yeah,
exactly. Like that's the thing. It's like that. How did everybody know that trick though? Like how did that? Because it was, that was before the internet and everything like that. How did everybody universally know that that's how you got a Nintendo to work? It's baffling. Like how does it, where did this information come from?
There were so few options that we had at our disposal then that
but
it was the only logical thing that you could do. I remember they used to sell like there was like a pink cartridge that you could put in that was like the NES cleaner. That didn't work. Only blowing worked.
Never. That's the only thing that worked. But how does a kid in Toronto and a kid in Orange County, California, how do they know this stuff? Like, I don't know, it's like pottery being invented at two separate ends of the world or something like that. Like every kid, no matter, like that is one thing that binds us as a society is everybody knew how to make your NES system work.
Do you remember like 33 in one, 66 in one, 120 in one cartridges where you just had like all the crappy games on one?
Oh, those were the best.
Those were
like,
excellent. Although they had like three good games.
Excite Bike on one of them? Yeah.
Excite Bike was definitely on it. And like some rip-off Sonic the Hedgehog game for NES was on it too, which was just god awful. But it had like Galaga on it. Galaga? Is that what
Oh
it's
yeah,
called?
Galaga's a game. Yeah, that's a quality game.
So yeah, I'm trying to refresh my mind. I'm trying to rewind my brain 30 years. I've done enough damage to it over the past 3 decades that I don't quite remember all that well. A few rapid fire ones here. John Brown to the Bills. I like it with that Josh Allen.
Love it. I love it. I want to be more excited about Josh Allen. I would have been very excited if he had Antonio Brown, but I think John Brown is going to be very good for him.
Cordarrelle Patterson signing with your Chicago Bears.
I love this as a football move, and obviously he's not as great as Devin Hester, but just what he brings to the return game, that anybody who's going to be drafting the Bears DST realize that ST means Cordarrelle Patterson, and he's going to give you some touchdowns this year.
Jason Witten, does he have anything left to give to fantasy contributors?
This is a big move for the fans. The fans of Monday Night Football. This is a huge thing for us. Thank you. I don't know that Twitter might be the worst thing in the world, but
yeah,
it got us a new announcer on Monday Night Football, so it can't be all that bad.
Danny Amendola to the Lions, no Golden Tate. Golden Tate, as we record this, hasn't signed anywhere yet. Is that something that's going to be awesome for 3 games till he gets hurt?
Oh, that's going to be great. It's going to be an incredible 3 games. As long as you have him for those 3 games when he comes through for it seems like, you know what, it's like that Matt Patricia's trying to get the band back together. The only problem is the band is Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony. And I understand that 90% of your viewers won't understand that reference, but your dads would have found that hilarious.
I mean, we can't even call him David Lee Roth. Did you prefer Hagar or David Lee Roth?
See, but like Hagar is our era. Like that is our version of Van Halen.
It is, but like if you just everything is so like when you think back to that era now, it's all clumped together. It feels like it's just so long ago because the past seems much farther away than maybe it used to. Like if you were in like 1974, 1951 didn't seem like it was that long ago. Maybe it did. And maybe I'm just misremembering the way that it feels. But it feels like 2011 was ancient history compared to today. That 1984 seems like a really long time ago. 1980 seems a whole lot closer to 1984 in terms of, nothing really changed all that much in the world, except for Van Halen got a new singer.
That is such an astute observation because it is so much like that. Like I remember, I think that 1984 was the last album that they did together. So I didn't know any of their older stuff. So I knew 84, and then all of a sudden Sammy Hagar's the lead singer, and then I knew all their stuff. So it's crazy because I was talking to a former coworker of mine who left here in 2011, and I'm like, oh, so you weren't gone like that? Like he's like 2000, like you said, like 2011. I'm like, oh my god, I haven't seen you in 30 years. You're like, no, that was 7 years ago. You're like, oh yeah, that's true. So it is a weird time-space continuum, and it is. I wish my brain was more like my smartphone, and I could just start deleting files. Like I can start getting rid of something. Like I don't really need to know the words to Baby Shark. Like I can probably offload that at some point and try to keep some more relevant information, like the names of my nephews or something like that. But the mind works in a weird way.
Last few. Devin Funchess to the Colts. You like it or don't like it?
I'm ambivalent to it. It just seems like Devin Funchess is somebody who's there at the end of your draft. You're like, I'm familiar with the name. Like, I'll give it a shot. Like you're driving down the interstate, you're on a road trip, and you're like, I wouldn't normally pick Taco Bell, but I'm familiar with what I'm getting. So why not give it a shot? I'm not expecting a lot out of it, but I know what I'm getting, and there's some comfortableness there.
Deshaun Jackson back to Philly. I think this is actually a pretty savvy move.
I kind of like it. I'm not going to front. I think that again, when you start into those rounds where you're looking at the familiar names, Deshaun Jackson to me would be a much better option than Devin Funchess.
Last one. So they lose Deshaun Jackson, and now they also lose Adam Daddy. Adam Humphries goes to Tennessee. I don't really know how well that's going to turn out since Mariota may not be good. That's a problem. That's a problem. I mean, all of Corey Davis's value was tied up in the fact like, oh, every game that he gets 18 targets, he's good. Every game that he gets 6, he's terrible. Like, what happens with Adam Humphries here?
That's weird. These guys are only good when they get the ball thrown to them. What a weird conduct. I just hope that the offense is going to continue to evolve. I think that Mariota is a good quarterback. He's just healthy, and that's been a problem for him. So until that he has some consistency, not only at the offensive coordinator position, but some consistency of staying on the field, that a lot of these guys are going to struggle.
That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Hope you're up to date on all the free agent signings and how it impacts the fantasy football season. Adam Rank, follow him on Twitter at Adam Rank. Thanks for being on the line, man.
Hey, the pleasure was all on this side of I usually say phone, but this side of the computer.
The other side of the webcam.
The webcam. Yeah, I'm down with the kids. I know what I'm doing.
Did you buy your season tickets to the Angels yet, or are you waiting for the move to Long Beach?
How dare you? I would be fine with either location. I'm kind of living halfway in between. So either way, it's a $20 Lyft ride there or so. So I'm down with whatever. I don't have season tickets, but I go enough that I probably should. And, I have contacts. So I'm that person. So I'm ready. I think that this is going to be a better year than people are giving them credit for.
So you phone people and you're like, hi, I'm Adam Rank. I'm a big deal. Give me tickets.
I don't even say my first name. I just say, hey, what's up? It's Rank. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, come on in. I just show up. I just show up at the door, and they're like, yeah, you're in.
Check out all of Rank's work up on NFL.com, or if you watch this channel called the NFL Network, you might see him pop up there. You appear there from time to time, make some cameos, don't you?
Yeah, I'm like Brock Lesnar. I'm in for a couple of special events here and there and show up and make a scene, and then I get out of there.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. If you want to get into a draw for 20 DK bucks, like the episode, smash the like button so hard maybe your screen breaks. I don't know. Leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section. Let me know which of the free agent signings or trades you think will make the sneakiest impact for fantasy football. We all know OBJ is going to be good in Cleveland. Who's that guy flying under the radar that you think will make a big impact in fantasy football for 2019 that's already on the move? That will do. I want to thank all my guests today. Remember to subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. If you leave a review, 5 stars, DraftKings handle, something nice about the show, you'll be in a draw for 20 DK bucks too. Winners announced on Monday's show with Geoffrey Fienberg, Esquire. I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!